Hi, everyone, and welcome. This is the Mind of Christ talk show. Lack of spiritual education on anxiety and suffering has left many people unprepared to deal with the issue of stress. Millions of people who are struggling with mental health issues can avoid their pain, stress, and suffering only by knowing consciousness and who they truly are spiritually. This spiritual knowledge will not only heal your mind, but also gives you the tool to control your mind, which determines how you feel and eventually behave. Consciousness is a still small voice inside of you. It will help you get rid of that inner voice which always say negative and stressful things. And most especially, he will teach you how to free yourself. We are starting today's episode on a very serious note. And the topic of conversation today is consciousness, an inner journey to healing and transformation in times of crisis, which describes the time we are in. I'll start the show by telling you a story, just a short story. Once upon a time, there was a powerful force who created the whole world, the heavens, the earth, the plants, the animals, the fish, the mountains, the sea, the birds, the flowers, and all the beautiful nature we see around us. He is consciousness. He created an amazing creature called man, that is, you and me, with his very essence and all his nature and abilities. You are consciousness and not a physical person you see in the mirror every day. Consciousness also created the whole world and all the creatures and natures as we see it. This all-powerful and great force had an ultimate purpose for man and for creation, which is for man to understand his role and function in the Creator's eternal will and plan for humankind. But who is the Creator? Who created the heavens and the earth and all the beautiful things we see and enjoy every day of our life? The Creator of the heavens, the earth, and all of creation is spirit and has no real name. Some call him God. Others call him Dieu, as in French. In my language, he is called Obasi. In the great book, he told Moses that he is the I am. The I am. He told Moses that I am the I am. I am who I am. Acts chapter 7, verse 30 to 35 reveal to us who the Creator of the heavens and the earth is. And when 40 years were expired, there appeared to him in the wilderness of Mount Sinai an angel of the Lord in a flame of fire in a bush. When Moses saw it, he wondered at the sight. And as he drew near to behold it, the voice of the Lord came unto him, saying, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, and the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Then Moses trembled, and durst not behold. Then said the Lord to him, "Put off thy shoes from thy feet, for the place where thou standest is holy ground. I have seen the affliction of my people, which is in Egypt, and I have heard their groanings, and I am come down to deliver them. And now come." Well, as I read this verse, in my mind, I feel God is saying today to you, to me, and to the whole world, that I've seen your affliction. I've seen your suffering. I've seen the pain of humanity. I've seen how mankind, the people I created in my own image, in my own likeness, with all my powers and all my abilities, suffering, and I've come to deliver them, because enough is enough. Who is consciousness? What is consciousness? The man the Creator created was created in the very nature of the Creator himself. This means that all the wisdom, all the power, all the ability, all the authority of God resides in you, because you were created in the likeness and the image of God. God is invisible. So God's spiritual and invisible nature in you is what is called consciousness. Consciousness, it's God's voice, it's God's mind within each and every one of us, establishing the presence and the throne of God in our lives. Consciousness represents what we believe to be God. The great book tells us that you were created in the image and the likeness of God. Yet, what the Creator is still a mystery to the very man he created. We are suffering, and most of our life is filled with pain, hurt, emptiness, loneliness, sickness, just to name a few. Where is God in all our adversity? Where is God in our suffering? Well, in explaining what is God or where is God in all this, I want to explain to us what is called the human condition. Because in our suffering, in our loneliness, in our pain, in our emptiness, when we feel that way, when we experience life in the way we experience it, in pain, in suffering, in depression, in anxiety, it's just a clue, it's just a kind of a red flag indicating that we are living out of the human condition. So, before we get to understand where is God in all our suffering, in all our pain, I need us to understand that the greatest adversity you are facing, and all of humanity is facing, and all of mankind is facing, is the loss of their spiritual identity, their spiritual consciousness, who they are spiritually, rather than the ever-changing condition that is plaguing humankind. So all our suffering, all our pain, all our affliction, as we go through these things and all the situations and the things that triggers this thing, it's not really the issue with humanity. It's not really the issue with you and me. The problem we are facing is we do not know who we are as God created us. As in, when God looks at you, what does he see? He sees the divine man he created in his likeness and in his image. But is that how you see yourself? Because if that is not how you see yourself, then there is a missing puzzle. Then your vision is clouded. So it's very important that we understand that the problem, the circumstances, the situations, and everything we see around us today, it's not the problem. It's not even though we attribute those things to those problems. Major problem is us not knowing who we are as God created us. Once we know who we are as God created us, it's going to open a new window, and we are going to see the world differently from what we see it. The major problem here is living from our human consciousness, which is the center of all that we are aware of, and therefore it influences our consciousness and experiences. Living from this lower state of consciousness by human design impacts your will and triggers anxiety, depression, negative thinking, anger, suffering. You don't want to feel this way, I'm sure. I'm sure you are tired of the stress, pain, suffering, anxiety associated with living from your human consciousness. I have good news for you though. The good news I have for you is that a switch from living out of your human consciousness into living out of your spiritual consciousness will take you to a place of rest, inner peace, love, joy, freedom from stress and anxiety. This mindset will free you from an inner bomb to a place of happiness, peace, joy, rest, and fulfillment. God is not a man. So when we look at ourselves, at our physical appearance, and try to use this to see and understand or even know God, is a senseless attempt. Why? Because to know and understand God, we have to know that God is spirit. God is invisible. We were created in the image and the likeness of God. We were created spirit. You were created spirit. And the nature and abilities of God is inherent in you, is inherent in me. So we are essentially spirit. So you are essentially spirit. We, as well as creation, are a response and consequences of God's spoken word. God is spirit. God spoke, let's make man in our image and in our likeness. And man was manifested into a spiritual existence by the utterance of God's word. Creation, as we see and know it today, came to existence by the utterance of God's word. God does not operate as human beings because God is spirit, and spirit function by the power of the spoken word. Human intelligence, however, processes information through our natural senses and physical response to our environment. Humans do things, respond to things. We respond to pain, we respond to fear, we respond to cold, and our responses are controlled by our natural senses. But God is not like that. God is spirit. Spirit speak, and things happen. So, why have you not been able to know God? And knowing God, especially in this time where the world is going crazy, in the midst of the current world's adversity, where there is loss, disruption that is plaguing you and me and the rest of mankind, why have we not been able to know God? The simple reason why God is still a mystery to us is because we consider the image of God to be our physical identity or our appearance as we see ourselves in the mirror. That's why, because we are told that we are made in the image and the likeness of God, we know that, we are aware of that. Yet, when we look at ourselves, we believe that our physical appearance, what we see, what we touch, it's God. So this perception of who we are has clouded our understanding of who we truly are and puts us in a place of suffering, in a place of pain. By extension, living out of our human consciousness is impacting us in the way we process and interpret information and how we experience life, physically and internally. Physically, some people have individually and collectively lost jobs and means of livelihood. Some people are sick. Some people are dealing with racism, natural disaster, violence, social and economic breakdown, just to name a few. How we make sense of these challenges with our human consciousness will differ when we use our spiritual consciousness. In essence, the real danger is in our mind. As we try to understand the times we are in and make sense or meaning to what is going on in the world and around us, we are deteriorating emotionally and mentally. The major physical events in the world today have heightened our fears, pain, anger, frustration to the point where we are having fear, anxiety, suffering, fatigue, as our thoughts basically control our lives and how we feel and behave. As long as our thoughts are rooted in our human consciousness, we will never be free. As long as we see ourselves as the man or the woman or the girl or the boy you standing in front of the mirror, you will never be free. You will never be free from this human condition, this human consciousness. So how can we free ourselves from all these adversities and inner deterioration in our mental and our emotional mind? And how did we even get here? Well, we got here by losing sight of the divinely created man, by losing our divine spiritual awareness and consciousness. We automatically took the physically impaired realm, which has no ability whatsoever to understand the things of the spirit, or to understand the things of consciousness, or to understand the things of God. So lowering our level of consciousness and leaving us at the mercy of the carnal mind, the ego. So this is what I call the human condition. This is my own explanation and understanding of the human condition. The human condition is impaired. The human condition, when you live out of your mind and believe that you are a human being, flesh and blood, the man you see in the mirror, what happens is that your experiences, that consciousness, that awareness which forms the center of who you are and forms every information or everything that you become. Because remember, you are a spirit being. You have the power to create things because by nature, you have the abilities of God as a creator. So you create your own destiny the way you feel. But once your own destiny is created by that understanding of who you are as a human being, everything comes out the way you see it and the way you create it. And that nature, that level, that state of consciousness by itself is death, it's pain, it's suffering. It is what we see it. And that explains why almost 240 million people, according to the World Health Organization, are suffering from mental health issue, depression, anxiety, fear, and all sort of stuff, uncertainties. And that's why in the midst of this pandemic and all the things that is going on in the world, almost everybody is trying to make sense, give meaning to things. But very few people understand that They are not the flesh and blood. They are not the man or woman in the mirror. But they are bigger than that. They are spiritual beings. And they live out of that spiritual intelligence and consciousness. For those who do not know how to free themselves and want to know how to free themselves from this human condition, from this human consciousness, what do we do? But I want to begin this conversation by emphasizing that the journey of healing is a spiritual journey. It is actually a transition from one consciousness to another consciousness, which results to a brand new life. Just like you are living from your human consciousness, believing that you are a flesh and blood human being. That is one condition, and that is a condition where most people are living from. But if you decide you want to heal yourself, you want to be happy, you want to find peace, happiness, joy, and fulfillment in your life, then you have to make up your mind to transition from that consciousness to a brand new consciousness, which is that we were originally created spirit, and live out of that new consciousness. And when you live out of this new consciousness as a spirit being, by doing that, you bring forth a new life. You become a new you. Everything about your life changes. So, for you to embark on this consciousness, for you to heal yourself, if you decide to heal, to go through this path of healing through consciousness, there are certain rules that must apply. So, switching from this new consciousness, I want to give you a highlight, a snapshot of some of the things that you must abide for this healing, for these tools to help to heal you. First, you have to be willing to let go of who you thought you were. Maybe you originally thought you were, for example, you are Jenny. I was born and this is who I am. This is who I've always been. You have to let go of who you thought you were. You have to have a single-minded mind. What do I mean by that? That means that you have to agree and accept to the fact that before you became physical human being, you were first spirit, and that you are going to live your life completely out of that spiritual nature, and that this spiritual nature is going to inform the direction of your life and the future you want to build for yourself. As I am embarking, I'm laying down all what I used to know about myself, and I'm picking up this new life, and I'm embarking on a new journey. You have to make up your mind to win, because you cannot be here and there. You cannot live out of your human consciousness and live out of your spiritual consciousness. You must pick one, and whichever one you decide to pick, you must decide and make a decision that I must win, I must succeed. And then you must strip yourself of all unwanted baggage and commit to this new life of consciousness and the mind of Christ. The Bible itself says, let this mind be in you, which was in Christ Jesus. So the new consciousness, the new life I'm talking about is consciousness and the mind of Christ. So you must cut yourself from all the old consciousness which form the basis of your past life, and let go of your human consciousness and identity. You must lay hold now upon the new consciousness, which is the foundation of a new life. Start living out of your spiritual consciousness and identity. So this is what this channel is all about. It is for those who love and hunger for their Creator, God, and want to start using their spiritual mind and abilities to fix their lives. Discover your true essence and why you feel the way you feel, your mind and how it functions. On this note, and in the light of what is going on in the world today, I'd like to invite you to our new series, Consciousness, an inner journey to healing and transformation in times of crisis. This is a spiritual talk show revealing God as I see and know Him, and to give you tips and tools on how to fix your life. Our sessions and conversations ranges from the nature of God, healing the mind, the human condition, the soul's journey, hurt and pains, and all the things that gladdens the mind. Our intention for everything we do is to give you the tools you need to live a happy and peaceful life. Heal your mind with the mind of Christ, the Mind of Christ talk show. I look forward to sharing with you more about these wonderful teachings of consciousness and the mind of Christ. Thank you. Thank you for spending the time with me. If you followed through, if you watched through the end, I want to thank you very much for staying and listening to me. And I look forward to see you in my next episode. And if this is something that is of interest to you, please like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.